So, as we normally do, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by our good Sheriff Al Menas. Sir?
You know, especially considering the events over the last week or two, I think it's important to remember that we are one nation under God and we are indivisible. So let's say a pledge to our great republic and the flag that represents it. I
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Those that are able, please remain standing for our opening prayer, led by Commissioner Alacco.
Heavenly Father, we come here today in thanksgiving. Thanks that we have a country and a county and a state that allows us to have these types of meetings where we get to hear from those people who are running for office. Lord, we thank you for the divine intervention that saved President Donald J. Trump's life just recently. Lord, we thank you for sparing us so far this hurricane season from any storms. And Lord, we just ask that you be with each one of us today as we listen to those who are presenting their cases for why they should be elected. We thank those people who have come out today to hear them, and we ask that everybody get home safely, and I ask all this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. If you haven't gotten some refreshments, feel free to do so. Moving on to our questions. There's going to be 3 types of questions asked. So all these questions came from our membership, and we gave the candidates opportunities to present questions as well. I won't tell you who submitted what questions. I don't want anybody to be embarrassed or otherwise chided for their question. So some of the questions are going to be direct to a candidate. Some of the questions are going to be in general to the position that they're running for. Any candidate that mentions another candidate's name on their race, that candidate that was mentioned will get a 60 seconds to respond to a counter. And that doesn't include compliments. All questions asked today have been submitted to me via email or text message. And unlike CNN, I have not given them to anybody. Some of these questions have been edited for brevity and clarity, but the heart of the question remains. So, finally, clapping is certainly encouraged. Everything from a soft, polite golf clap for maybe something you don't like, to the Yankees bring the house down, cheering and clapping. Now, I'm saying this because I didn't say it last time, because feedback I got from the candidates felt that your clapping was really encouraging. It gives them some feedback on whether or not you approved of their answer. So please remember to place your phones on silent. Candidates, please remember to hold your mic close to your mouth. In addition to many of our folks being hearing challenged, let's say, we are recording this event, and we really need that audio to come across loud and clear. Any spontaneous utterances from the audience, I would like to remind you, will not be edited out, and you will own that for the rest of eternity. Our website things up. So with the school board, we're going to start, and we're going to leave everybody up here. I think it's important that you get to watch the facial reactions on some of it, because some of this is like cross-pollination here, you know, like the sheriff is involved with the school board for security reasons, the property tax guys are also kind of involved a little bit in how much money they charge you in taxes. So, candidates, Mike Freshour has the clock. You will know exactly how much time you have left. So we're going to start with the school board. Most of you have been here before. However, I'd like to have you take 90 seconds to remind us who you are. And one caveat, please do not mention any endorsements you may have received during your introduction. You may mention your endorsements at the end, closing remarks. So with that, we'll start from right to left. Michelle, you're up 90 seconds.
Ready?
Hi, I'm Michelle Bonsick. I lived in Hernando County for 43 years. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's degree in education law. I have 7 children. I used to previously work in the schools as a substitute teacher for about 8 years. I have a medically fragile child that I've had to fight for, so I'm pretty well versed on ESC issues in our schools.
90 seconds, huh? Seems like a long time now.
Safe schools are a big priority to me. There are some things that I'd like to look at for our safe schools, and that would be trying to implement a K-9 unit into our schools. Exceptional students, that's a big issue for me. Focused development on it, mental health programs entered into our schools, cursive writing back into our schools, properly utilizing the funding we do get, aggressively seeking out grant funding for various programs to better our district. Giving our children a safe and appropriate education is key to their success. I am running only for my children and my grandchildren, and your children or your grandchildren. That's the only reason I'm running. And I thank you for your time.
Greg, as soon as the timer is reset.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Greg Laskowski, running for the Hernando School Board District 4. I've been involved as a volunteer in the schools for at least 20 years. When my daughter started elementary school at J.D. Floyd, my wife joined the SAC. She wanted me to join the SAC. We did the same thing when she went to Challenger, and then the kids went to high school at Nature Coast. We've been involved in all kinds of committees. And from the time I got involved, I was trying to find out more about funding for our schools. I researched the Florida Education Funding Formula. I saw a tremendous disparity. I've been involved with the half-cent sales tax committee. I advocated for that in 2015. Voters approved it. And since 2016, I've served as the chairman of the Citizens Accountability Committee, which has guaranteed that every single dime of $112 million collected in 8 years. People thought you'd never get $10 million in 10 years. $112 million, every dime went directly to the school safety, repairs, and infrastructure that the voters approved. So in my mind, credibility counts, and that's what I'm proud of, and I certainly hope you'll vote for me in the District 4 race. Thank you.
Okay, we'll roll right into Mark as soon as the time is reset.
Ready, Mark?
Good afternoon, my name is Mark Chofie. I'm running for District 4 School Board. A little bit about myself. I grew up in a small town in upstate New York and stayed there until I graduated high school, went to college. In 1980, I joined the Air Force. I did 21 years of active service. I participated in Desert Storm, did 31 combat missions there. In 2001, I retired to move to Spring Hill, where my parents resided, to help them out. I was also hired by Delta Airlines at that same time, and I flew for them for 21 years, retiring in 2022. I have 42 years total in aviation. I have a lot of experience in leadership, and that's one of the biggest issues I see in our schools right now is a lack of leadership, or leadership in the wrong direction right now. And I propose that we take a little bit different direction. Now, first and foremost is that teachers should be treated appropriately with courtesy and respect, and that's not happening, okay? And that's a leadership issue. We should have schools built. Okay, we built 3 schools since I've been here. We haven't done that. That's a leadership issue. I'm running for District 4 School Board, and I hope to have your vote come August. Thank you very much.
Very good. Okay, first question for school board candidates. Each one of you will get an opportunity to answer this question. Can you name 3 drag queens? Oh, wait, that's the San Francisco school board. Seriously, in advance of the meeting, I asked the candidates to fill out a questionnaire because I wanted them each to have their own opportunity to state what they wanted and not be piggybacking behind somebody else. So we're going to start with Mr. Chiaffi. Did I say that right? Chiaffi. So the question is, what do you think, and by the way, this is 60 seconds, what do you think are the #1 issue needing to be corrected in Hernando County schools? And Mark's answer was leadership. Mark, you have 60 seconds to explain why leadership is the #1 needed correction.
I say that because of what I've seen and what I hear. I call it teacher abuse. I mean, teachers are leaving our schools because of the way they're being treated. And I've visited A+ schools in our state, and A+ schools deal with classroom issues differently, and they deal with it effectively, and we should be too. One of the biggest issues is the fact that we have these cell phones still going on, and smart devices. You cannot walk into an A+ school or a private school or a charter school and see smart devices being used. They create distractions, they create drama, and quite honest with you, it's a mental health issue for our children. So that alone would help our classroom environment if we took care of that this next year. Thank you.
Okay, same question for Greg Lakowski. What do you think is the #1 issue needing to be corrected in the schools? Greg answered funding. Without it, everything else is secondary. Greg, you want to expand on that in 60 seconds?
At various events over the course of this campaign,
You could speak up a little bit, or switch mics.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
At various events in this campaign, I've heard Mark's answers vary, saying we need to follow the example of the A+ schools. First of all, we should point out there are no A+ schools in Florida. The Department of Education has schools rated A, B, C, and D. There are no pluses and minuses. Secondly, I think we need candor. We need more honesty, because I want to talk about endorsements and transparency. That's if we don't have honesty, we're wasting our time here. Mark told me on Saturdays, at Saturday's lunch on the stump, he was never contacted by the governor or anyone on his staff. So where's the transparency? What kind of an impression do you think that creates when voters learn they aren't worth the time it takes to assess all candidates fairly? Can I just add that Michelle Bonzek was never contacted, I was never contacted, and yet miraculously, an endorsement turned up for Mark.
Okay,
Thank
thank you, Greg. You just invoked the naming the other candidates, so Mark has 60 seconds to respond to that.
How much time, Joe?
60 seconds.
60?
60.
I've been in this campaign for a year now, and I was contacted,
By whom?
and I submitted
Not a debate. Go ahead.
I submitted a questionnaire, and I was told that questionnaires went out and I don't know who they went out to be honest with you, but be that as it may, I have submitted that questionnaire, and there was over 100 people that submitted the same questionnaire, and I was one of 22 that selected.
Where's the
So-
transparency? The voters are entitled to
Excuse
transparency,
me.
at the very least.
Excuse me, we have some rules we're gonna follow here, Mr. Witowski. So, restart the timer.
I am not in charge of the governor's office, okay? I am not in charge of what the staff does.
Mark, hold on.
Okay.
30 seconds for Mark, please, to finish his comments without being interrupted.
Okay. Ready, Mark?
Okay, I'm not in charge of what the governor's office or staff does, or what they submit, or how they submit it. I went out and I asked for endorsements. I asked for a congressional endorsement, and I was turned down, okay? That didn't happen. So it doesn't follow that because you ask for it, you get it. So I did the paperwork, and it ended up that I was one of 22 selected. Not my call on what the governor's office does or how they do it, okay?
Thank you. So that was 30 seconds. So now we go on to Michelle. So Michelle was asked the same question. What do you think are the number one issues need to be corrected in the Hernando schools? And she said, respect. Michelle, you have 60 seconds to explain what you mean by that.
So, respect. When we watch our board meeting, if you watch our school board meetings, we don't have respect starting at the top. So, when they're fighting and bickering back and forth between each other, what are we teaching everybody else? That it's okay and it's allowed. So then we have people come up and then they're gonna treat everybody the same way because there's no respect. So unless you have respect, how are you ruling a school? How are you going into a school and talking to administrators when they don't respect you or you don't respect them? Part of our problem is respect. It comes at a high level and it goes all the way down. And if you go into a school and you'll see and you'll hear, you'll talk to teachers and they'll tell you, I can't go to my administrator. I can't tell them this. I can't tell them that. And they won't tell just everybody that. But other people that are in the schools, they're talking to the teachers and they're telling, I can't do that. Well, I can't tell that that teacher did that to this, to that, to that. I can't do that. We have no respect. And there are many problems in our schools.
Thank you. Okay, Greg, second question to all the school board candidates. What do you think, if any, is working perfectly and does not need to be changed? So Greg's answer was, nothing here is perfect. I think everybody's going to agree with you on that, but would you like to take 30 seconds and expand on that?
I would. One of the things that's extremely encouraging is the development we have with really a public-private partnership advancing the Wilton Simpson Technical College, Pasco Hernando State College, the aerospace industry, and private companies on the Atlantic seaboard coming to Hernando County, partnering with our county to use the airport space, the labor force that we have here, where they'll be bringing jobs and training. And this is a tremendous pathway for kids who are not going to be looking for a 4-year college. They still need a career.
Thank you. So let's bounce back to Mark, since you had the same answer. Nothing works perfectly. 30 seconds.
Well, I spent 42 years, like I said, in aviation, striving for that perfect flight that I never got. You work hard and you try and get to that point. So that's the goal. So I'm hard pressed to say that there's anything that ever works perfectly, at least from my point of view, from my experience. But I will say that the Wilford Simpson project is encouraging, and the fact that not everybody goes to college or wants to go to college. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Michelle actually found something she thinks works perfectly. Now, I've been told there's no such thing as a free lunch, but Michelle thinks the free lunches for all students works perfectly. Would you like to
So,
expand?
I agree. There is no such thing as free. It costs everybody. But here's the thing, we have a lot of kids that come into our schools that may not get breakfast or lunch at home because their parents can't afford it, or they're living in tents, or they're living in hotels. So that program in our school pretty much works perfectly. Our schools make sure that our children are at least fed. If nothing else, it works perfectly. It may not be right, and it's costing all of us, but it works perfectly. Nothing else in our schools really works that perfect.
Okay, so now I have a question that was submitted to Mark, but I think it's going to ask all the candidates this question. They're going to get 60 seconds to respond. The question is, the school board member majority will be conservative with the addition of Casey Hawkins, and hopefully you. So whoever wrote this wants Mark in there. I'm going to address it to everybody. How do you plan to address liberal parents and teachers who can be extremely vocal at schools? So Mark, you have 60 seconds to answer that, and we'll go right down the board.
Clarification, at schools or at school board meetings?
It says at school board meetings.
All right,
So just to help the candidate a little bit, I think what this person was getting at was, are you gonna change any of the rules at the school board meetings, or are you gonna leave it the same? I think, are you in here? Go ahead, 60 seconds, sorry.
well, I do believe that some of the volume at the school board meetings gets a little high and out of control. I think having the rules of engagement followed, and really, I watched Susan Duvall run a meeting, and it was very well run. She's not my favorite person up there, but she knows how to run a meeting. And the chairperson is key to making that meeting happen. I suggest that anytime there's a chair, that they take a page out of her playbook or get the education to know how to run a meeting, because you can do it well, people can get their point across, but to me, again, it comes back to leadership at the chair's position on how that works. So that's my thought on that.
Fantastic, thank you. Great, same question, do you need me to read again?
Yes. The board takes, or has the opportunity to take some direction from the general counsel. And over the last year and a half, that council has been somewhat reluctant to advise the board on exactly how they can tone things down. Now, from October through May, we had 60 separate agenda items devoted to book removal and complaints, and it absolutely monopolized so much time where many more priority issues simply didn't have the chance to be discussed. I would encourage the general counsel to let the board chairperson know exactly what their options are, because these board discussions can be moved to a separate space, such as a workshop. And by no means should people be reading graphic sexual content aloud at any school board meeting. There should never be surprises like that at a school board, and that's one way to reduce it.
Sean? 50 seconds, same question.
Again, it comes back to respect. I think a lot of times surprises come on people because they try to reach out to other people and got no response, no answer. And I think a lot of our parents are distrusting of our school board that we have now. So they're questioning everything, which in return, then we hit the news and we start to question what's going on, who's hiding what, who's doing what. So now you have parents that are upset. And when you're upset, anybody that's upset, most people don't keep a calm manner, right? So they're in there screaming and yelling. But again, yes, control of a school board, it can be stopped. And I'm not saying throw people out of the school board because everybody has it right. I'm saying that it has to be controlled, and we're not controlling it. We're chaos. And that's all I can say is when I watch a school board meeting, it's chaos. One screaming across the other, at the other, at the other. People are coming up screaming at them. It's chaos. We have no control. We have no respect.
Okay, moving along, some really short questions we have for you now. So what are your thoughts on DEI, CRT programs and policies? We're going to give you 30 seconds for this. It should be a one-word answer, or something close to it. But let's start with you, Michelle.
I'm against it, and it's against the law.
Greg?
Thanks, but no thanks. We don't need DEI. Mark Johnson did a tremendous job at making people aware of what's going on with CRT. That's been removed. There's no place for it in the schools, and we have to simply follow existing Florida statute. And the statute is clear. Thank you.
Mark?
DEI is dead. It's dead on arrival. So is CRT. Has no place in our schools. Has no place in our society, to be quite frank with you. And we're seeing the results of DEI hiring right now. So no, it's a dead issue, and it's gone. Thank you.
Short to the point, 30 seconds to answer. Do you support or not support tax increases? Mark?
I do not support tax increases. I really believe there's plenty of money right now. I just think it's poorly spent. And if we're looking at spending more money on portables at nearly $250,000 a piece, that's money not well spent. So there's plenty of money. No need to fret about higher taxes. Thank you.
Great, 30 seconds.
I would take issue with the idea that there's plenty of money. People who are familiar with the Florida education funding formula would know that 55 schools out of 67 in Florida receive more funding per student than Hernando County. I do not agree with tax increases. I do agree with extensions of the existing half-cent sales tax for schools, as well as the millage, and that's only an extension, not an increase.
Michelle?
I don't agree with tax increase for schools. I do agree with our half-cent tax that we've been paying to continue to help fix our schools. We still have very many schools that we've just been able to put Band-Aids on. And we have ceilings falling down on kids' heads. So we need that tax. But I don't think we need an increase. I do think our budget is spent the wrong way, and I feel that our district office is a little top-heavy, and for the size of our district.
Okay, we have a directed question here for Mark Cioffi. So you have one person likes you, this person I don't think likes you. So the question is, what's the real reason why you're running for school board when you've never been involved in any way? 50 seconds for that one, please.
Because I know something about leadership, or the lack thereof. And I've been watching it for 20 years. I've been watching it over the last few years, and we are going in the wrong direction. This is not rocket science. This doesn't require a degree in education. This doesn't require huge amounts of experience. As a matter of fact, some school districts elect their superintendent who may or may not have been in the school system. It's about leadership. It's about the person at the top setting the tone of a direction that this society wants to go, that our community wants to go. So that's what qualifies me. 42 years of flying, 21 in the Air Force, 21 with Delta, been through all sorts of leadership courses. It's not rocket science, and most of the people I talk to, when I mention leadership, especially the teachers, just kind of roll their eyes and go, oh yeah, we gotta have something change there. So it's a leadership issue, not an education issue.
All right, we're going to switch things up a little bit. So each of these candidates are going to get a 90-second wrap-up at the end of our whole meeting. So I'm gonna move to the sheriff's office now, office for sheriff. I would like both of these gentlemen to have an opportunity to take 90 seconds without mentioning any endorsements they may or may not have, to reintroduce themselves. They've both been here many times. And reintroduce themselves and perhaps in that introduction, express why they are running for the office of sheriff. So I'm going to start with Sheriff Niehaus. That's not on the interview question.
Well, good afternoon. I certainly feel at home here. Most of you have seen me here many times over the last 13 years, oftentimes with my wife Rhonda. We've been married just over 34 years, which may not be a long time for some of you in the room, but in this day and age, that's a long time. We have 3 beautiful daughters. Probably at least 1 or 2 of them have been here as well with me at different times, and many of you have probably met them. And a couple grandchildren. I used to joke that I thought my daughters were perfect until I had grandchildren, and I know daughters are not perfect, the grandchildren are. But we all live as well. 2 of my 3 daughters have husbands. And all of them, all my immediate family live here in Hernando County, so I certainly have a vested interest here. I've been sheriff, as I said, for 13 years. I was chief deputy prior to that in our county to our immediate south. And I worked probably about 11 years prior to that with the state of Florida, the most of that time in a supervisory role. And then, of course, as chief deputy, I was in upper command staff, and then the last 13 years as sheriff. So I've been involved full-time in law enforcement since June of 1989, and all but a couple of those years was in supervision, and all but about 5 or 6 years was in mid-management or upper management. I certainly love Hernando County. I have an MBA from USF, and probably between 1,500 and 2,000 hours of specialized training. Thank you.
Thank you. Next over 90 seconds.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Joe Puglia. I've been living here since 1999. Former New York City police officer, started coming here in 1991. My wife and I of 33 years, raised our children here. 2 of them are police officers. My daughter's up in New York. From the NYPD, from patrol, I went to the aviation unit. I have every rating there is, airplane and helicopter, to include all the instructor ratings. I went on to be a captain at United Airlines, responsible for 800 new hire pilots based in Chicago. Leadership comes in very many different facets. You don't have to be a good pilot to be a good captain, but you better be a good captain. And what I mean by that is you better be able to manage resources collectively and make a decision. I missed law enforcement enough to get back into it, went to Newport Richey Police Department. I know what it is to sit in a radio car and do the job that the deputies do, because that's what I've done. I'm asking for your vote on the 20th of August.
Okay, first question, no drag queen story hours here. Sheriff Niehaus, directed at you. Most law enforcement agencies nationwide provide body cameras for their police deputies. What is your view on providing them to your department? And if cameras are planned for the foreseeable future, what does that timeline look like?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. If you,
How much time, Joe?
Oh,
Sorry,
1 minute.
we're 20 minutes in.
Sorry about that.
90 seconds.
90 seconds.
yeah, 90 seconds.
all right, I'm glad you asked that. Actually, if you turn to page 4 in the Hernando Sun, the last question, I talked a little bit about that, go into a lot more detail. But I was talking a couple weeks ago, because I know this issue comes up fairly frequently with Grady Judd, and asking him, because I know what his position is. And there's two reasons why we don't have body cameras today in Hernando County. We do have cameras in all of our patrol cars, and I think if you think about it, and you watch any camera footage, you will notice that oftentimes, if not most of the time, dash cams get a much better view than a body camera that sometimes is face down or gets taken off and thrown away and so forth. But there's expense and privacy issues. Number one, if any of you have ever owned a boat, it's not the cost of the boat, it's everything that comes after the boat that is expensive. Maintaining storage for the data, retrieving that storage, issuing those cameras out, and so forth. Very expensive in both dollars and in labor costs. But one of the things Grady and I agree on is that the privacy issue. Government, law enforcement is one of the government agencies that is involved in the most intimate times in your life. If you're having a bad day arguing with your spouse in your underwear and you've had too much to drink, law enforcement is in the middle of that. Oftentimes there's no law that's violated, but do you really want that captured for eternity on video? And law enforcement has a lot of discretion, and they oftentimes do not let that information get out, but I don't want it stored in a cloud where somebody can get it. Thank you.
So just to be clear, that would be no.
What's that?
That would be no time soon. Mr. Lovely, your thoughts on that, 90 seconds.
Okay, well, I am for body cameras. I wore body cameras in Newport Richie. Law enforcement is a partnership between the community and the agency. Unfortunately, the position of sheriff over the years has transitioned more political than actually being a law enforcement officer. What the sheriff just told you, in some cases, is not accurate. For example, the sheriff has the authority, if it's FOIA requested under the Freedom of Information Act, to deny you access to what happened in your living room. In today's day and age, look what just happened to former President Trump. And what are we going to today? Look at the videotape. If you are not training your deputies and your law enforcement officers to function in accordance with policy and the law, that's the answer you want. Here's what I'm running on. I'm going to be a sheriff. I'm not a politician. I'm not concerned with being a politician. If I'm doing a good job, 4 years from now, you're going to re-elect me. We have crime rising. The deputies are out there exposed. They need to be protected with those body cameras as well. And that's exactly what I plan on doing.
I think we've invoked the name your candidate rule, so the sheriff has 60 seconds to refute what Mr. Povey has said.
Thank you. First of all, the sheriff's office being political, how many times have you seen a riot started as a result of something that happened in a sheriff's office nationwide? I bet you can't find it, because sheriffs are more connected, in my opinion, to the people than most other law enforcement agencies. And I've worked for the state, and I know it is certainly not connected to the people. So, deputies being safe. We have about 160 fewer deputies than the average agency our size for population in the state of Florida. If we're going to spend more money and we want to protect those deputies, I'm going to put any additional tax dollars towards adding positions so they get back up faster, they respond to your calls quicker, and I think it's going to be safer for you and for the deputies. Thank you.
Let's see where I want to go next. So we actually have quite a few members that have law enforcement background. And this sounds like something that was written by somebody in law enforcement. I have seen you speak of your, this is directed to Mr. Povey. I've seen you speak of your wide range of law enforcement experience, which includes retiring from the NYPD. How many years did you serve with the NYPD? Did that tenure include 9/11? And what other law enforcement experience do you have as well as, do you have any, does that include any management or supervisory roles? Very specific question to Mr. Puglia. I think he deserves at least 90 seconds to answer that.
All right.
So just
Say-
wait for the clock to start, please.
Okay.
All right. So I came on the New York City Police Department when I was 20 years old in 1987. I've been flying since I'm 14 years old. I said earlier that leadership skills come in many different facets. If you look at the sheriff up north, he was never a cop on patrol in Citrus County, but he's running for his second term. So in combination between the New York City Police Department and the Newport Richey Police Department, just shy of 14 years. I was a captain at a major airline when I was 29 years old. You don't get to be a captain at a major airline because you have no managerial skills whatsoever. As I said earlier, you don't have to be a good captain. You don't have to be a good pilot to be a good captain, but you better be a good captain. I've got more experience, unfortunately, than the sheriff does sitting in a radio car and running from one job to another as recently as 2.5 years ago. So I don't shy away from my life experience. Also, I am the chief instructor for American Aviation, which has the contract for PHSE flight training. I'm proud to tell you that I've got numerous children, kids, young adults that live in our community, jobs that pay upwards of $300,000 a year as airline pilots today by being a role model. So I have what it takes to coalesce with people, have leadership skills, but I'm smart enough to surround myself with people that I can trust and can help make those decisions, and that's what an airline pilot does every day.
So I think we invoke that name your candidate again, name your opponent again. So Sheriff, 60 seconds to refute anything. But first I would like to ask Mr. Puglia, there was several items that weren't answered. So how many years with the NYPD?
Just shy of 7.
So, and did that include 9/11?
So yeah.
Did that include 9/11?
No, 9/11, I was at United Airlines, and between the NYPD and United Airlines, about 23 friends of mine were killed that day.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
just to elaborate a little bit, on the morning of September 10th.
Well, no, you
No,
won't.
can't? Okay.
I'll give you an opportunity. You'll have another opportunity to say what you want to say. I'm going to go to the sheriff so we can refute what you were saying. 60 seconds.
Well, a couple things. First of all, this sheriff in Citrus County, I know him fairly well. He was actually a military police officer for his career in the Army, so it's not like he has no law enforcement experience. Also, something that my opponent said twice that I think I might take exception to, and you probably do too. If you're in an airplane and the left seat pilot, i.e. the captain, is not a good pilot, I think Sully would disagree with that. If your engines get, if you quit and you're over New York City, I think you want a really good pilot in that captain's seat. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I'll leave more time for the rest of the questions.
Okay, thank you. So I think this is really most appropriate. Thank you. Most appropriately answered by the sheriff. But I will interject something in here. In New York City, the police actually were very heavily involved in elections, and they secured the numbers on each voting machine. They wrote them down and they reported them so that any shenanigans couldn't happen. So this question is not from any police officer, I don't think. I think this is from somebody that's involved in the supervisor of elections office. So each candidate, and Joe, I'll give you an opportunity to say what you want to say instead of answering this question if you like. But this is a pretty detailed question. So each candidate, what are your thoughts on helping with citizenship verification? Would you be willing to work with this SOE, Supervisor of Elections Office, to determine whether someone is legally permitted to vote? And kind of another part of that is providing data on ICE detainees to Fernando County sheriff's supervisor elections office to help them identify non-citizens who are on the voting roll. A little wonky, but probably very important these days, since we're all pretty sure the last election was stolen. So, sir?
60 seconds, Joe, 60 seconds?
90.
90.
Well, voter suppression and voter integrity is a very, very difficult, complex issue, as you might imagine, and does require some experience and some leadership experience. I would say most deputies probably don't have this perspective, but our laws are very specific about how involved, for example, the sheriff can be. I can appoint poll deputies, and many of you have probably served in that position, but those have to be citizens. Uniform law enforcement can't hang around the polls because that could be perceived as voter suppression. So we're not allowed to be there unless we're voting or unless we're called. So it's a fine line to walk, but I can tell you we work very closely with our supervisor of elections to get poll deputies trained and to address any issues that Shirley might bring or the new supervisor of elections may bring forward. And if there are any felonies, we will certainly work with the state attorney's office and or FDLE to hold those people accountable. It is, as I said, a fairly complex situation, but if somebody's not permitted to vote, Shirley's office, the supervisor of election, can and does give that information to us, and we do conduct an investigation. And if the state attorney is willing to file charges, they will be held accountable under the laws. I think it's mainly 106 in the Florida statute. So yes, we are very involved in that, but not to the point where we're going to suppress voters. So.
Gotcha, thank you. So, the same question to you, then you can take it out time to make the other statement you want to make.
Well, I would be willing, of course, to help out the supervisor of elections in any fashion that she may need. I just want to point out how he started telling you how little a deputy knows. That's not my philosophy. Managing resources is listening to everybody and making a collective decision. And I know that might be hard for some people to do, but again, that's what makes good leaders. As it relates to helping out the SOE, absolutely we'll do that. And I want to take it one step further in where my mind is. If President Trump is elected, he's talking about a mass deportation. You cannot do that at the federal level without the assistance of your local law enforcement. And I am willing to have our deputies deputized to assist in that fairly if it is proven that that person is in fact here illegally and needs to be deported. So again, the president will not be able to do that by himself. He's going to have to turn to the local law enforcement to do it, and I am willing to help him.
All right, you keep throwing the sheriffs, another 60 seconds.
Oh, jeez.
60 seconds to refute that.
Well, it's only time we get to debate a little bit.
It's not a debate. It's just-
I think my opponent misunderstood. It's not in a deputy's job description to know what can and can't be done with regard to voter suppression. They have enough on their plate when it comes to custody issues, law enforcement issues, and the 1,000 other things that they have to deal with on a daily basis. But when you do talk about deportation, we're one of the few counties in the state where deputies are actually cross-sworn with ICE as immigration officers in our jails. So if somebody does come in and there's a suspicion that they might be here illegally, they can actually do the investigation. And that's a result of the federal government oftentimes saying, yes, hold that person, and coming to find out later we didn't have a legal right to hold them because they were a U.S. citizen and the sheriff got sued. So now we are able to do that. So.
Okay, I think that's going to be it for the sheriffs. Let's see where we get, because I think the property appraisers are going to have some complex answers for their questions. So the first question, let me see here. I think we're going to give them 2 minutes. And again, we'll each get to wrap up at the end. So, I'm gonna give him 2 minutes, Mike.
Okay.
And let's start with Mr. Johnson.
Yeah.
Um,
Is that Joe's?
And included in this 2 minutes, if you could please briefly explain what exactly GIS is. So, GIS system is still having issues. I heard mentioned some days it is still down. Explain the importance of this system and what specifically you would do to fix the problem, if there is a problem, as the new property appraiser. Tap it once.
Do we get introductions first, or?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, thanks for reminding me, yeah. 90-second introduction, sorry about that.
All right,
Your
thank you.
mic moment.
That might be. Okay, all right. Good afternoon, I'm Kevin Johnson. I am a candidate for the office of Hernando County Property Appraiser. I'm a native of Hernando County. I have been married to my wife, be 35 years this coming November. We've been together since my sophomore year of high school, so you can add about 9 more years onto that before we got married. Got 2 wonderful adult children and a beautiful granddaughter. I've had the privilege of serving the residents of Hernando County for the past 31 years in the property appraiser's office, and that's something I'm very proud of. My knowledge and my experience that I've gathered over those 31 years provide me with the opportunity to step in immediately on day one to assume the duties of the property appraiser without any need for on-the-job training. I've got experience in the valuation of all types of properties, residential, commercial, agricultural, industrial, and tangible personal property. In the ad valorem assessments, which is different than your normal fee appraisal. This is something that I've been training for and preparing for my entire career in the office. And I feel that I'm uniquely qualified to carry out these duties. And I humbly ask for your vote and your support for me, Kevin Johnson, on August 20th. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. I'd like to thank Wellington for having this forum today. I am Randy Mazurek, and I'm currently running for Hernando County Property Appraiser. I'm running for this office because of the outcry from citizens wanting a conservative change to come to the office. I'm highly qualified to make these changes because experience matters. I've worked in the private sector for 30 years. I am a small business owner. I bought ARM Appraisal Service when my father became property appraiser 28 years ago. I successfully ran that business. I'm still running that business successfully. I have 30 plus years as a local property appraiser. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a Florida State graduate, and I'm not a lifetime government employee. My vision to better the property appraiser's office is to provide fair assessments for both residential and commercial properties, to bring transparency back to the office. I plan on making the office accessible to the citizens when they have questions on how their property was assessed. I'm going to fight for lower taxes and incentivize property ownership. I'm going to upgrade the IT system because there's obviously problems there. Our community relies on that GIS mapping system at the property appraiser's office. First responders, accountants. This is Randy Mazurek. Please vote for me on August 20th for Hernando County Property.
Okay, since I messed that up, let's start with Randy. Maybe this will actually change Mr. Johnson's question. So this was sent specifically towards Mr. Mazurek. You have recently stated in multiple forums that the property appraiser's technology is outdated and needs to be upgraded. Can you identify which versions of the, and I guess this is somebody who knows what they're talking about, CAMA, I have no idea what that is, the CAMA system and GIS the office currently uses, and what is your assertion that these are outdated based on?
How much time, Joe?
2 minutes.
Okay, the system that the property appraiser's office uses is the GIS system. That system was brought online by my father, wasn't quite 28 years ago because he didn't do it the first year in office. That system has not changed at all since the inception. A couple of years ago, last year, they tried to update the system, but they had to go back to the old system. My plan to better the system is to hire an IT consulting company. The IT consulting company could take the data, figure it out, find out how not to be hacked by these ransomware companies that are in China, Russia, what have you, and have a system that can easily be brought back up in a timely fashion. The other constitutional offices during this time that the GIS system, the property appraiser system went down, we're back up in a couple of weeks. It was over 3 months that the system got back up for the property appraiser's office, and it does go down from time to time. There are a lot of people that rely on that system, the building department, attorneys, realtors, myself, appraiser, builders. They have to have those systems up, title companies for closing. So my deal would be go in and look at the entire system and do what recommendations that are affordable that the IT consultants would come up with. The system just has to be looked at and overhauled to some extent. All right.
Okay, well, back to Mr. Johnson.
Oh, that was it. I didn't have enough time. My wife, I've been married to her for 18 years, 2 weeks ago. We dated for a long time before that. She's a great mom. I have 2 children, one 15 and one
Well, that's not the question.
11. Okay, yes.
So, you want to tell us about your wife, Mr. Johnson? Okay, so now this is the question we wanted to ask, and then we'll go one more question, and we'll be done with the appraisers, then we'll move into the wrapping, the close-up. Trying to keep this on time amount here. So, Mr. Johnson, the GIS system is still having issues. I heard mentioned some days it's still down. Explain the importance of this system, and what specifically would you do to fix the problem? And I'm going to add in, if there is a problem, as a new property appraiser.
Okay, thank you. GIS is Geographical Information Systems. And I will tell you that our system is the most current and most up-to-date program that is out there, and it always has been. Esri, which is the vendor that provides the GIS programming for the property appraiser's office, requires that you be updated each and every time they come out with a new version. We are currently running the ArcGIS Pro version 3.2, which was released back in November of 23, and it is the most up-to-date and current program. As far as the information not being available out to the public after the IT situation that occurred, all of our information was backed up on a redundant backup system. We have 2. We have one at the EOC, we have one in the cloud, and we have one in our office. So we did not lose any information within our GIS system, nor with any of our property appraiser data. What caused the delay in us getting this information back out to the public was because the clerk's IT security team was going through the security protocol, getting these new things put in place so this does not happen again, caused us the delay in getting it back. Everything we do on the GIS system is web-based. We did not have internet access because it was not provided by the clerk's office for over a month and a half. But within 4 days of the IT going down, we had secured cloud access to get our internet back up at a minimal, and we did have a GIS map up to allow the public to do it. But we have over 35 GIS maps that are available to the general public, and we have over 50 that are utilized internally within the entire county. I will say that GIS has been utilized the entire time I've been in the office. It was not invented or put in place when the previous property appraiser was there. So this is something that has been ongoing. GIS has been around for many years, and we do have the most current information available, and we have a great staff in our office that administers the GIS program. Thank you.
Okay, last question, just along the lines of generally speaking. So we have one gentleman here who's currently working in the office and one gentleman who is an appraiser outside the office. What makes you specifically more qualified than your opponent for this position? And we're going to give you 60 seconds for that. So we'll start with Randy.
What makes me more qualified to run the office is I can bring the new ideas. I know how to appraise all types of properties. I have done that in the private sector. I've had to run my own business. I had to eat what I kill, whatever I make, and ran the office is how it was. I will come in there with the same exact qualifications as my father did when he ran for property appraiser. I will be up to speed before I take office on everything that I need to know about that office. I have additional property appraisers that support me in neighboring counties that have already said that I can come in and they will help me with any questions that I have and also give me new insights on how to update this office.
Mr. Johnson?
I would say that my 31 years in the office, working in virtually every department in that office, gives me the knowledge and understanding that will, again, help me immediately assume those duties of the property appraiser. I will not need to ask any other counties how to do the job. I know how to do the job because I've been doing the job. So with that being said, I think that my qualifications and my experience in this office, again, is going to allow me to be the better qualified candidate to immediately run this office without having to go to outside sources to get help to do the job that I already know how to do. Thank you.
Okay, I think that kind of concludes our questions for the candidates, because we want to keep things moving here. So 90 seconds for a wrap-up, and we'll start with Michelle. Tell us about your husband.
My husband's a retired firefighter from Spring Hill Fire and Rescue. How about that? In wrapping, I guess, the things that I want you to know is I'm a mom. I'm a mom with 7 kids. 7 kids that I've got 5 of them to graduate and have successful careers working for public service. 4 boys that are firefighter, paramedics. 1 daughter that is a Tampa General RN nurse, RN nurse. My husband is retired, like I said, from Spring Hill Fire and Rescue. So we've always been in public service. I've always been involved in our school districts, always. I watch the school boards. I still have 2 kids attend schools. I hear on a daily what the kids come home and tell me. I still have tons of teachers in our schools that tell me what's still going on, that's been going on since I left 10 years ago. With all that being said, I do have a master's in education law. I got that to fight the system while I work the system for my son. Because the ESC kids are the ones that get the least, that need the most. So with all those things saying, I hope you really look at all candidates, all of us, and make the best decision on who you think would be the best to lead our schools. Thank you.
Folks, I want you to remember carefully what you heard tonight and go back to the video if you don't remember. The reason I'm running is because I'm passionate about education. I think most of you probably recognize that already. I've got a track record of results. I'm not just talking about it. I got into this because I was involved when from the time my kids started elementary school. One of the candidates tonight told you that the big problem we have in the district is leadership. I kind of think that it all starts with funding, because the best intentions of our school board, our Board of County Commissioners, or even our own households will not go anywhere without the funding first. But think about this. The person who told you leadership is the problem said he knows that for a fact because he's watched for the past 20 years, and he's convinced that that's the problem. It's got to be leadership. So I want to ask you, is that the kind of person who leads, the person who watches from the sidelines? Or do you want somebody who gets involved to be part of the solution? Not somebody who's standing around on the sidelines and waiting for somebody to tell them, why don't you run for the school board after 20 years or more? Greg Laskowski for Hernando School Board.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take this as a bank. It's a leadership issue. As sure as God made green apples, it's a leadership issue, and you can see it. Every one of you can see it, and I'll give you an example. We have 135 portables. How many portables are you willing to accept? You've been desensitized with another portable, another portable. What leader allows, over that period of time, some 20 years now, but has done nothing to improve the classroom environment, where the kids are, where the teachers are, okay? I'm submitting to you that that's a leadership issue, okay? That shouldn't be. We should be having a plan to build more schools, okay? Some of those things are just health hazards, if nothing else, okay? That's a leadership issue. Cell phones, smart devices, schools have been getting rid of that for months, years. I mean, it's a common sense thing. Again, it comes back to the classroom environment. You want to improve the classroom environment? Do something about that. Get rid of those, okay? If you want to do something about the classroom environment, enforce the policies, procedures, rules, and get rid of the 5%, or do something with the 5% that are disrupting the 95%. Getting rid of cell phones and following policies and procedures costs zero, okay? It's not a money issue. Take it to the bank. It's a leadership issue, and I'm here to be part of that leadership change. Thank you.
Sheriff, we'll give you the first recap. 90 seconds.
Looks like I lost 10 seconds there. First of all, I want to thank Joe Wolf for putting this on. This is a lot of work, and it's very well done. Thank you, Joe. Secondly, talking about the IT and the ransomware, just for clarification, the sheriff's office was not impacted by that ransomware, and I think that's a credit to my IT people that work every day to make sure that we are not above being attacked, but we certainly are, thus far, due in large part to the good Lord watching over us, I guess. We have not been impacted by any ransomware attacks. Well, another thing I think is very important is that Florida Tax Watch, you can go to their website and download their most recent stats with regards to counties. And although Hernando County is 39th in property taxes, which is about in the middle, they are 56th in public safety spending. Now, a lot of leaders might complain about that, and that's per capita numbers, but I'd look at it as a badge of honor that shows from a neutral third party, if anything, they're anti-tax, they certainly aren't pro-tax. And they are saying that we're doing it more efficiently than just about every other county in the state. And the fact is, crime is down and clearances are up, and to say otherwise is an attack on my good people that are crunching those numbers every day in records and so forth. So thank you all.
Well, I certainly don't want to attack any of the men and women of the Hernando County Sheriff's Office, but I'm going to leave you with this. Funny Biz. Anybody know what Funny Biz is? Funny Biz is a horse, a thoroughbred horse, who was killed in our county at a slaughter farm. And Fox 13 just did a piece on this last night. So I am telling you that crime is on the rise. Deputies are leaving here. They're going to work somewhere else. And we need to turn that around. You're fortunate to live in a gated community, so you're not exposed to it as much. But you do leave this community. If you want somebody to be accountable to you, I am that person. I'm not going to worry about politically what's going to happen, because what Funny Biz deserved was these three gentlemen and the sheriff to drive out to that location and let him know, we know what's happening here, and I'm going to leave two of these guys to sit outside so your life becomes a little bit uncomfortable until I get with the state attorney or the attorney general and figure out what angle we're going to come at you. Go to Fox 13, take a look at it. When people from outside the county start bringing things up, it's time for you to look. Please vote for me on the 20th of August. I will be your sheriff. I am not a politician. I will hold my people accountable. We will have body cameras and transparency.
Well, regardless of the rules, I want to hear about what the sheriff has to say about Funny Biz. What's this, sir? If you have any comments, you can make.
How much time, Joe?
No amount of time, whatever you can. I want
For those
to
of you-
story.
For those of you who haven't heard, there was and I don't want to go into a whole lot of details because it is an open investigation, but all the information has been turned over to the state attorney, and they are making a decision on whether or not to prosecute. And it is a horrific situation, but as is the case, there is always more to the story. And when the prosecutor decides whether or not he's going to prosecute in that case, then obviously more information will come available either via that prosecution or his declining to prosecute because some of the nuances with that case that may not be public. So,
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to our tax appraises, property appraises, sorry. And I guess Mr. Johnson is ready to go. Randy's got the wrap up.
Okay, again, thank you very much for y'all taking the time out of your day to come out here and listen to us today. I'm sure you've heard it all before and probably hear it again. I am the most uniquely qualified candidate in this office. There's only one of us in this office that has been in the office for 31 years and has worked my way up from the entry-level position up to your assistant property appraiser. I've represented the office in over 1,000 value adjustment board cases. I've represented the office for over 20 years in our audits with the Florida Department of Revenue, and we have always submitted our tax roll on time in accordance with the laws of the state of Florida. My unique qualifications will allow me to immediately step in again and assume the duties of the property appraiser. I know you've heard me say that probably 3 times today, but I think it's very important that you have somebody that has the experience to go in there on day one and not have to pay them for any on-the-job training. So I humbly ask for your support on August 20th to vote for me, Kevin Johnston, to be your next property appraiser to serve you for the next 4 years. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Randy Mazurek again. I have to say that I'm honored for the endorsements I have received both by state and local people and representatives. Constitutional offices of the tax collector has endorsed me. Gus Bilirakis has endorsed me. Wilton Simpson has endorsed me. FOP has endorsed me. One of the latest endorsements I just received this week was from the Hernando County Board of Realtors. The realtors have clearly conveyed to me the problems in the property appraiser's office and the troubles they've been having. They are part of the industry that I've worked my entire adult life in. They know me, they know my work ethic, and they know that I will go in and make the changes needed in that office. Yes, I have not worked in that office, but that is not a downturn, because if you keep the current administration, you're going to have the same problems because nothing's going to change. The office has been on cruise control. So I'm humbly asking you for your vote on August 20th. Please come out and vote for Randy Mazurek for property appraiser. Thank you.
Well, we're just about wrapping things up here. Did I forget anything? No? You know, we have a lot of, I'd like elected officials come to our meetings, and we appreciate that. So we'd like to give them an opportunity to address you every time they do come here. So we have, first up, I'm gonna go ladies first, even though she's not actually an elected official. She has some words she wants to talk to you about for Ms. Navarro, Commissioner Navarro, who's not here at the moment.
60 seconds.
Ooh, I guess I won't be talking about her a lot, but Beth wasn't able to be here. She was here the last forum that you had. Just remember that she is running for re-election for County Commissioner, and tomorrow night is her fundraiser at Silverthorne from 5 to 7:30. So please, everybody, come out and support her. Thanks.
And I would say, you know, you don't even have to make a donation if you go. Obviously, it's about donations, but they're really nice events, and you get to mingle with the politicians or elected officials. Sorry, John. They don't like to be called politicians. So with that, I'm going to recognize Commissioner Locke.
Again, I'd like to thank every one of you for coming out today and take time out of your day to hear who some of these people running for office are. My name is John Alacco. I'm running for County Commissioner. I believe I've represented you well over the last few years, and I'd like your vote again. I work diligently. There's some funny stuff going on out there saying that I'm anti-Trump. That's ridiculous. I work very hard as vice chairman and chairman of the Republican Party to get him elected in 2016, and again elected at least in Florida in 2020. And I'm going to work hard to get him elected again this time. I would say it was divine intervention that he was not killed, and it's important for us to get him through the finish line. I've also had some pretty good endorsements recently. There's been one, maybe two congressmen nationally that have been endorsed by President Trump, and one of them is ours, Gus Bilirakis, and he endorsed me. I've been endorsed also by our agricultural commissioner, Wilt Simpson, a local representative, Jeff Holcomb, our Senator, Blaise Ngolia, and yes, several of our constitutional officers, and I'd love to have your vote and endorsement this year as well. Thank you.
Fantastic. So I think that was a pretty good forum. Pretty much right on time, where I plan to be at least. A couple of simple little things. First of all, next month we're going to have a New Generation here, and they are an organization, a local organization. It's been around for 25 years, and they help support women who are pregnant and who want to keep their children. So that should be an interesting presentation, but step away from the politics for a few minutes because it's after the election. The election's on the 28th, August 20th. Make sure you get out there and vote. That's when most of these races are going to be decided. Then we have a friend that's here tonight, one of our members actually, and that is Donna Lee, which I don't think is a real name, but she makes these really cool little Republican elephant chocolates. They're actually chocolate-covered Oreo cookies. And, you know, I'm like a low-carb guy. I can't resist these things. They're fantastic. So if you'd like some information about that, this information will be on our website because Donna has donated one of these for a raffle. So that's all you got to do to get on our website. One little piece of chocolate. So with that said, did I forget anything, Mike?